everyone, it's Bells. Welcome back to my channel. It is spooky season and it is our tarot TBR, and you know what that means. It means a whole month of spooky reads. Yay. I picked all horror books for this particular spread. I purposely only picked 4 cards because I know I have books on my bookshelf that I definitely want to get to in October if I have the opportunity to. So that's the reason we're only doing 4, is because I kind of want to do some mood reading with my spooky stories, you know? Before we start, I'd like to ask for some booktuber recommendations. I feel like my YouTube is looking a little stale and I would love to have more people. Feel free to plug yourself if you are also a booktuber. I'd love to check out your channel. If you know of people who have similar tastes to me, not like I need to add any more books to my TBR, but like people who make fun videos, put them in the comments, because I feel like I need to expand my YouTube watching. Without further ado, let's get started. Obviously, we are using my Tarot of the Divine tarot card deck by Yoshi Yoshitani. I'm not using my Goddess Power Oracle deck for this one. It just like wasn't in the spooky vibes, you know? Quick brush up on the rules. 1 card equals 1 book, and if I get more than 1 of the same number of the minor arcana, I pick up another card. Pick as many cards as you feel like. If you want to play along, the Google Doc with all the rules is in the description down below, as always. And the first card that I pulled was the Page of Swords. We have seen this card so much. This is Princess Parizade. I'll just give you a quick briefing here. This story is about Princess Parizade's quest for 3 magical objects: the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water. She wants them for her garden, sends her brothers off to get them for her. Her first brother, Prince Bauman, meets basically like a sorcerer who sends him into a valley of stones and says, like, don't turn around or you'll die. Bauman gets to the valley, the stones basically just yell at him until he gets overwhelmed and he turns to flee and turns into one of the stones. Parizade's next brother, Purvis, does the same thing happens, and so Parizade is like, all right, if I want something done, better do it myself. She also meets with the sorcerer, and when she hears about the Valley of the Stones, she stuffs her ears full of cotton so she can't hear them. So when she does walk through the valley, she can still hear them, but they're not quite as overwhelming. She's able to get through safely, climbs up to the mountaintop where she meets the talking bird. The bird tells her how to get the other objects. When she's ready to return home, she walks back through the Valley of Stones and sprinkles the golden water over top of all of the stones and turns them all back into men. And I think it is worth mentioning that all of the people in this Valley of Stones who got stuck there were all men. There's something funny in there somewhere. When they get back home, Parizade uses the bird's advice to convince the Sultan that her and her brothers are his true children, and then they move into the palace. They are actually his true children, by the way. They're not like lying to him. That is a happy ending. The card, the Page of Swords. This card is all about youthful intelligence and passion. This showing up in a spread signifies to me that it's a time for jumping into something new with all of your energy and sticking to it. My prompt for the Page of Swords is a YA novel, or I can spin the Wheel of Fortune, and so I spun the Wheel of Fortune to add a little spice to this spread. The prompt that I got from the wheel was to replace the first card with a new card. So the new card that I pulled was the 5 of Swords, and basically that means I'm just swapping the prompt. The new prompt that we're using for this guy is a book over 500 pages. So the book I picked for this is Needful Things by Stephen King. I have a rocky relationship with King. I read The Shining and loved it. I have like a collector's edition right here because it's one of my favorite books ever. I have been trying to recreate that experience with every subsequent King book I've read, and I have not enjoyed most of them. I've been on a bit of a King hiatus because I needed a break after Misery. And then I discovered what Needful Things was about, and I am curious and intrigued. So this book is about a newcomer to a small town who opens up a little shop where any patron will find the object of their lifelong desires. All that he requires as payment is a request that each person perform a prank on someone else in the small town, and things get twisty. That just sounded really interesting to me, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Everyone seems to really enjoy this one, but also everyone seems to enjoy Misery and The Stand, and I did not. We'll see how this goes. I'm intrigued, I'm curious, but that is the book that I picked for the Page of Swords card. The next card that we pulled was the Hanged Man. So this is Sleeping Beauty, and I'm gonna tell you the original story of Sleeping Beauty, which dates back to 1634. This is called Sun, Moon, and Talia by an Italian court writer, Giambattista Basile. I just want to give you a content warning at the beginning of this that there is some sexual assault in this story, and it's pretty upsetting, so feel free to skip this. I'll put a little timestamp below for you to skip the story if that's not your vibe today. Also, this story is ridiculous. I don't know what this man was doing. Sleeping Beauty in the story is named Talia. When she is born, astrologers predict that a tiny splinter of flax will mean her death, which, like, if you think about it in context, the danger of, like, infected paper cuts at this time without penicillin or any antibiotics, like, that probably did actually happen a lot. The king banishes all flax, all hemp, and other spinning materials, but a passing peddler woman catches Talia's attention. When the princess tries to spin some flax, a splinter of it wedges under her nail and she dies. The king lays her body in a country manor and just abandons the house forever. Years pass. This poor girl's just, her corpse is just chilling in a house. A king from a neighboring land is hunting in the woods, and he just breaks into this manor, I guess, and finds the gorgeous Talia. He is so struck by her beauty that he rapes her and heads back home. Let's remember, she's not sleeping. She's dead. She is dead in this story. So 9 months later, Talia, still dead, gives birth to twins, Sun and Moon, and some fairies place the babies on her breast to suckle. When one of the babies sucks, like, the flax out of her finger, Talia wakes up confused. Like, why do I have children? But, like, yay, I have children, I guess. Yeah, so everyone's just, like, hanging out, raising these kids. I guess there's a bunch of people in this manor, so, like, where they were when the king showed up in the first place, I don't know. The king eventually shows back up again, probably to get some more corpse action, I guess, and is super excited about his new family. Yay, I have kids. He tells Talia that he literally raped her, and I kid you not, quote, their friendship was knitted with tighter bonds. The story isn't over yet, by the way. Mr. Rapey King has a wife, and she begins to suspect that her horrible husband is having an affair. She finds Talia and sends a messenger to have the children brought to their dad. Talia's like, yeah, go hang out with your dad, kids. And the queen orders her cook to roast the children and serve them as dinner to their father. The cook hides the kids, does not roast the kids, and the king eats some lamb instead. The queen does send for Talia. She thinks that the children have been eaten, and it basically accuses her of home wrecking. And when Talia tries to explain that, like, she was literally dead, the queen doesn't care and tries to throw her into the fire. So Talia stalls for time by, I kid you not, offering to take off her clothes. Like, what is happening? And because the queen wants her pretty outfit, she's like, yeah, sure, strip, I guess. So, oh my god. So Talia is, like, stripping and screaming until the king shows up to be like, what is happening in my house? And when he asks his wife what's going on, the queen announces that she fed him his bastard children, and the king gets really mad, fair enough, and throws her and all of her courtiers into the fire they made for Talia. Before the cook can be burned, they bring out Sun and Moon. Everyone rejoices. The king marries Talia. The moral of the story, as quoted by the author, is those whom fortune favors find good luck even in their sleep. I'm sorry. Hello, Basile? What the fuck? Well, that was upsetting. Let's move on. The Hanged Man as a card. This is a major arcana card, and the Hanged Man usually represents something needing to go on pause, right? Like, you're falling asleep for 100 years. You might have to slow down on a project or release some expectations so you can take that break and maybe get some new perspectives. My prompt for the Hanged Man is my lowest rated book on my TBR. I obviously picked my lowest rated horror book, and this was almost a dead tie between the book that is the lowest, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, which had a joint rating of 3.07, which is pretty low, but that had a 15-week waiting list at the library, so we're not going to pick that one. Instead, we're going to be reading Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, which has a 3.08 rating. This is considered the first graphic. This is considered the first Gothic novel, and this is also the book that Anne Radcliffe satirizes in Mysteries of Udolpho, which is, like, the only classic I've truly thoroughly enjoyed. The story is about Manfred, who is the prince of Atlanta, who is trying to keep his castle in his family. His son is crushed to death by an enormous helmet on the day of his wedding, and Manfred decides to divorce his wife and marry the girl that his son was supposed to marry instead. Unfortunately, kind of appropriate for this card and this story. I know that this is probably going to be a pretty rough read. It's probably going to have some serious misogyny in it, even though it's about a woman being scared and dealing with the horrors of men. Like, it's written by a dude, so I only have so much leeway to give to him. And also the fact that Anne Radcliffe was so mad about this book that she wrote an entire other novel making fun of this book and how stupid it represented women tells me a lot. But it's pretty short, and I think it's important because I love Gothic novels. I think it's important to, like, read the history of it. So this is not a book I'm like, yeah, you guys should all go read. But I am excited to see the beginning of all these tropes that I thoroughly enjoy. So that's the book that I picked for The Hanged Man. The next card we pulled is a card we've also seen quite a bit. This is the Three of Swords. What is represented here is the crane wife. And again, I'll just give you a brief rundown of this story since we've seen it quite a bit. A poor man finds an injured crane on his doorstep and nurses it back to health. When he releases the crane, the next day a woman appears and they fall in love and get married. To make money, the woman offers to weave some very pretty clothes that he can sell, but he isn't allowed to watch her making them. He agrees. They begin to live very comfortably. The man does eventually get greedy and insists she make more and more clothes, even as her health begins to visibly decline. One day, probably, if I had to guess, because she looks so terrible, he's probably wondering what the hell is going on. He snoops on her making the clothing and discovers at the loom a crane plucking feathers from her back and weaving them into the loom. The crane catches him watching her and flies away, never to return. The Three of Swords, I usually read this card as like an emotional release. When it comes up in a spread, it's usually reminding you to experience your emotions fully, whatever that means, so you're able to move forward with the things that serve you best. The prompt that I have for 3 cards is a contemporary fiction, and so I picked for this The Return by Rachel Harrison. This is from my new favorite podcast that I've been talking about in like literally every video, Talking Scared. The tagline that she gave for this book is The Shining, but if it was about female friendship. That's all I'm giving you. If that doesn't make you want to read this, like, I don't know what will. I'm so excited for this book. And the host said that it like legitimately scared him, like freaked him out. So sounds like it's going to be a good time. That's the book I picked for the Three of Swords. Our final card that we're going to talk about today is a new one. This is the Two of Coins, and the figure represented here is rhpisunt, or Bear Mother, who is a goddess in Haida mythology. rhpisunt was the chief's beautiful daughter and went out into the woods to pick berries one day. She accidentally tripped over a pile of bear dung, dropping all the berries, and began to loudly curse bears, calling them filthy and disgusting. The bears nearby overheard her, and one of them transformed into a young man who seduced her back to his mountain home. I guess as punishment for being mean to bears, or maybe as like a, okay, you think we're so horrible, but you're still gonna fall in love with us. Once she gets to the bear village, she does fall in love with the young man. They marry and have 2 twin boys. They are half human and half bear. During this time, rhpisunt's brothers had been looking for her, and they found her footprints beside those of a bear, and they began hunting the bear. The brothers managed to find rhpisunt's bear husband and were able to deal him a mortal blow, and with the last of his strength, the bear gave his wife magical spells to pass on to their sons. The boys wind up growing up in her home tribe instead of with the bear people, and were revered as great hunters and warriors, teaching those in the tribe how to hunt and what songs to sing in order to honor the animals. They were never comfortable among people, however, so when their mother died many years later, the sons transformed back into bears and returned to their village, never to be seen again. This card, the Two of Coins, this is basically like the multitasking card. It shows up when you're busy and is reminding you to manage your time and your priorities so that you can still enjoy your life and what you're actually working towards, which I think is appropriate for me being in school. So the prompt that I have for 2 cards is a book with 2 or more leads. And so this is a book I will be buddy reading with Fran, who we talk about a lot. Go check out her channel. She reads some lovely, lovely things. And this is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. It's a horror mystery, very reminiscent of Scooby-Doo. It starts in 1977 when a group of young detectives unmask the elusive Sleepy Lake monster as their final case. And this monster is a man, very Scooby-Doo. Now it is 1990 and they have all grown apart but are haunted by disturbing memories that can't quite be explained by a man in a mask. So now it's time for them to all get back together and find out exactly what happened all those years ago. Very Stranger Things meets It, kind of, in my opinion, just from that premise. Fran started reading this already. She was the one who recommended it and said that the writing was just absolutely gorgeous. I'm excited to read something that's a little bit not like out of my comfort zone, but out of what I usually read, if that makes sense. Those are all of the books that I'll be reading this month. There will probably be more because it is spooky season. It's the best season. It's my favorite time of the year. Let me know what you guys are planning on reading this October, if you've read any of these books, or if you have any spooky reads that you're super excited for. Don't forget to give me some booktuber recommendations, please. Next week, I will be posting the next installment in my genre fiction for the zodiac signs. It's going to be horror, of course. If you like horror and you like astrology, stay tuned for next week, and I will see you all very soon. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye!